I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I'm a career and leadership coach, the head coach for JobSearchCoachingHQ.com. Now, someone asked me a great question. Um, it's kind of like a variation on why women choose bad boys. And it's really the question of why do people take bad jobs? Or why do they take the wrong offer? People go into a job search because there's something wrong at work. I remember a time when I was still doing recruiting, and I found a great opportunity for this woman, and she was going to take a counteroffer. My position checked all the boxes. And when she called me up to say, I think I'm going to take a counter and stay, I said to her, let me take you to lunch. I want to hear what this is about, and let's talk about it. And as we were sitting over lunch, she told me that the other firm had offered her $500 more than my client had. This is a long time ago. $500 was a lot of money. So I said to her, when we spoke about what you were looking for, you listed this. And I went through a series of things that were important to her, she said, in her next job in her organization. And how is the firm addressing this? Well, they aren't. And we went through 5 or 6 different items that were not going to be any different. Just the money was going to change. And she said, thank you. You've reminded me of something, and I really appreciate it. And she took my offer. Here's what happens. People go into a job search, and yes, money is important, but they forget about the sense of mastery or competence that they'll feel in the work. They look for community, like people that they can get along with to work with, and work that involves meaning and purpose. Now, generationally, you may prioritize different things. Like, if you're younger, you may think of this. If you're older, you may think of that. Whatever it is, it comes down to money, the feeling of competence and mastery, community with the people that you work with, meaning and purpose related to the work. Now, what happens most of the time, and I'm going to draw from Harvard Business Review here, where they did an article I thought was wonderful. And the writer, and I'll come back to who that was in a second, the writer points out to what we settle for is money talks and people listen. And that becomes priority number one, is the money. And as a result, we start to tolerate or accept positions where we have to tolerate things that are not really in our wheelhouse or an organization. The work really isn't that good, but the money is. So we go for the money. So issue number one is money talks and people listen. And number two is people are good at tolerating bad jobs. Now, remember, when you tolerate a bad job, you come home as a zombie. Your mind hasn't been activated. The work isn't interesting. Maybe your commute is intolerable. That's a different conversation. It's not related to the job per se, but the conditions of the job. And the money was good. And you still have to live with the impact of doing bad work. There's also the issue of people aren't always aware enough to know what's going to happen on the job. They don't have the sense that they're not going to be in an environment that's going to propel them forward. And there's also the issue of it's hard to know what to expect. Now, here I'm going to give you a funny example. And I'll just simply say, from the time I started training recruiters back when, I would tell them 3 jokes. Joke number 1 is, how can you tell a job applicant is lying to you? And the answer is their lips are moving. How can you tell a company is lying to you? Their lips are moving. And people, if they were asked, is can you tell a recruiter is lying to you? Their lips are moving. Everyone's posturing for advantage in this transaction. No employer ever says to you the reason why the last 4 people in that chair left. They left. So ask about that. Find out why people leave. Talk to some of the people in the organization and say, I'm sure you're painting a wonderful picture and you honestly believe this, but what's wrong here? Where am I going to struggle? Have some fun with it. So it's not something that puts them on the defensive. And if they say, oh, everything's perfect around here. Oh, why did the last person leave? Someone's left the group. After all, statistically, that's true, right? So ask them why the last person leave. What was wrong to them? Oh, they couldn't keep up with the work. Does that mean that they were incompetent or they were working crazy hours? We don't know that from this scenario. So the result winds up being we're left to wonder, is it the work environment, the employee? What is it? And start to sort it through. By the way, the article on HBR was written by Tomas Chamorro-Premuzic, Premuzic. He's the Chief Talent Scientist at Manpower Group. So I hope you found this interesting. Remember, money is a factor, and it should be. And it shouldn't be the only factor. As you're making choices, remember these other alternatives, these other variables, and don't neglect them. Because eventually the chickens come home to roost and you're left with the consequences of your decision. And sometimes it's hard to extricate yourself from them. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. Hope you have a great day. If you'd like more, visit thebiggamehunter.us. I've got thousands of posts in the blog there. Watch them, listen to, read them. Have a great day. Take care.